And preparations are ongoing, and there you see Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in fact, was supposed to visit the mausoleum of Bahadur Shah Zafar. He is right there. His visit was due after a prolonged speech to the diaspora just yesterday. In fact, he was supposed to visit places of cultural and historic importance, and one of them being Kalibari and also the mausoleum of the last Mughal emperor. And there you see the Prime Minister visiting cultural and historical places in fact, Myanmar. This is his first state visit to the country. He is at the Shwedagon Pagoda, a significant site. The Prime Minister signing in his entry there. Interestingly, cultural ties to be strengthened between India and Myanmar. For 4 years, bilateral talks heavily focused on strengthening both the cultural ties and resolving various other issues, and also developmental projects that both the countries will work towards from here on. Right now, Prime Minister is in fact at the Shwedagon Pagoda, a significant site. He is signing in his entry, making his presence felt, visiting cultural and historic sites. It's part of his plan at the time he visited the itinerary of his, in fact, visit, disclosed the details of the particular places he will go. He's also going to go to Kalibari and also Bahadur Shah Zafar's mausoleum. And we have a political editor who is in fact in Myanmar right now. Let's go across to him. Karthikeya, the Prime Minister has started his visit to historical places, and now at this point in time, he in fact is at this historical site at the Shwedagon Pagoda.
Yes, he's at the Shwedagon Pagoda. He's got a tight itinerary today morning. First, he's going to, we are also there at the Shwedagon Pagoda. After Shwedagon Pagoda, Prime Minister is expected to go to the mausoleum of Bahadur Shah Zafar. Then he's going to go to Kalibari. Then after that, he's going to go to the Aung San Museum. Father of Aung San Suu Kyi, who was assassinated a year before when Burma became independent. So, he's like a hero there. So once that's being done, he'll intend back to Delhi. But, by going to all these places, he's trying to create a threat. Because generally, earlier, Vajpayee used to do that, but it was slightly abandoned when Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, because it should be a very busy site. Prime Minister tries to create a personal touch, and by going to all these places, and by spending time, he's trying to invest in what he says, the civilization connect between India and Myanmar. It's a very beautiful pagoda. It's historic in nature. The government of Myanmar wanted to upscale or outsize the pagoda by building a pagoda in there have been, which is far bigger than this. But people still come here because this pagoda is important, because when Buddha wanted to spread his word across the world, he gave 4 strands of his hair to his students. And one of the strands of Buddha's hair is actually buried in the Shwedagon Pagoda, and that is why it is considered to be historic, religious, and cultural. All 3 markers exist at one site.
Right, Karthik, interesting details there. This is in fact a historical visit, and as you gave out those interesting stories of the background and historical context of the pagoda. Prime Minister is now, after that, after paying his respects and acknowledging this particular historical landmark, he will now go to, he will in fact after that go to the mausoleum of Bahadur Shah Zafar, and you visited there. What sort of historical significance is this going to bring, perhaps also, as you mentioned, the connect, trying to build the connect between the two countries?
See, Bahadur Shah Zafar and the last king of Burma suffered the same fate. The last king of Burma was sent to spend his last days in Ratnagiri, which is Maharashtra, the Arabian coast. And Bahadur Shah Zafar was sent to Yangon on the Bay of Bengal coast to spend his last days. You know, it culturally completely two different places. But both of them were sent to different places, lest they create some sort of trouble back at home. That is why Bahadur Shah and his family and the family of the last king of Burma, they never came back to see their own homeland. Now, Bahadur Shah Zafar, this fantastic story is that he was, the place where he was buried, as decided by British, was not the one he was buried. In 1991, when an excavation took place, it was found that Bahadur Shah Zafar was actually buried 10 meters away from the original spot. And he was buried so deep inside that, you have to go to a underground level to see that. Generally, this used to be a practice during Mughals. You know, there used to be a marker up there, like for Taj Mahal. You know, if you see the grave of Mumtaz and Shah Jahan, you think that it's there on the first floor, but actually the grave is in the basement. You know, the upper grave are just like what you call the markers. But here, they not only created a false marker, but they said that's the real one also. In the sense that, you know, both the marker and the real grave exist together. So in 1991, it was discovered, and those two separate, one, the original grave and the marker, both are maintained. And just to show that how people for 50 years, or at least 100 years, believe that, you know, this was the original place of Bahadur Shah Zafar's death. Now, there are no family members there. But, you know, Yangon has got a lot of Indians, 20 lakh Indians. And that is why he's also going to go to Kalibari. Plus, Prime Minister has also asked the Indian government to locate the headquarter of Azad Hind Fauj, on which there is no consensus. That's also the surprising news which comes from Yangon. That because of the rule of the military and their distrust of both India and China, because, you know, they were running the business there, Indian, colonial and pre-colonial political markers all stand obliterated, barring few.
Karthikeyan, and also now that we know the Prime Minister is leaving the spot and of course will be headed to other cultural and historic places, and both the countries, while they held the bilateral talks, talked about strengthening their relationship and vis-a-vis the cultural sort of realm as well. What are your takeaways from these cultural and historical visits that the Prime Minister is in fact making? Of course, you also mentioned that this establishes a greater connect and gives out a sense of, bonding between the two nations. But your takeaways from these historical visits, perhaps few more planned and one just finished.
Was there a question for me, Jessica?
Yes, Karthikeyan, that was in fact for you.
Okay. Now, see, the biggest takeaway is that the Prime Minister did not give in to the international pressure when it comes to the Rohingya issue. Prime Minister has pursued the policies of the Indian government, and on the Rohingya issues, he has sided with the Myanmar government. He had gone there to strengthen bilateral issues, bilateral talks, bilateral interests. The Prime Minister did not give in to the Western propaganda or the propaganda of the Western media, whereby, Rohingyas, some problem of illegal migration has been turned into a problem of political issues to be settled in India and any other places. So that's why Prime Minister has been very, very clear about it. Because there has been a lot of press that, there is violence taking place. There is, the Myanmarese army has destroyed the Rohingya homeland without going into the historical context. The historical context of the problem is that the British needed cultivators. They wanted people to migrate because people in Burma would not cooperate. So the people from then, the so-called East Bengal, migrated to the area which is historically known as Arakan, but which the Myanmaris call them Rahim. And they are not part of the constitution, they are not recognized, they are only given temporary cards. But the whole violence has broken out between them because they now constitute 2% of the majority in Myanmar's regime. And it has turned both religious and ethnic in nature. So there is a Kofi Annan Commission report which needs to be implemented. But by sticking to your own point, the Prime Minister has also redefined diplomacy, which used to suffer under the lofty, I would say, ideals, from which India got nothing but bad returns.
But Karthik, an important issue, in fact, of the Rohingya refugees crisis has dominated the Prime Minister's visit. In fact, we also heard that from the Indian officials, which said that the best way to resolve these crises is perhaps through development efforts and reformatory efforts of, in fact, helping these refugees in that particular manner. Has the Prime Minister stated, in fact, similar, has been on the similar lines when it comes to Rohingya refugees, because this comes very heavily on Aung San Suu Kyi as the international community and worldwide condemnation has come upon her?
Yeah, Aung San Suu Kyi, Aung San Suu Kyi is not the, elected leader of the planet Earth. Aung San Suu Kyi is elected leader of Myanmar. Myanmar does not recognize Rohingyas. We have to be very clear on that. It's like saying that Pakistan says that, Kashmir belongs to us, but Kashmir is an integral part of India. Now, how do you take positions on issues where your own position is vexed when it comes to certain territories? I think these are the issues which the Western presses are battling with, but India and its citizens battle with. So I think on that way, this was a bilateral visit. This was not a visit in Rohingyas. That is why neither Prime Minister nor Aung San Suu Kyi chose to mention it.
All right, Karthik, thank you for joining us this morning with all the details and, of course, from that visit to Myanmar's and historic and cultural places.